Right, welcome to the Enduro Method Podcast, episode 2. So today we're going to be interviewing Dayne Toney, learning a little bit about her history, how she got into dirt biking.
Hi, I'm Dayne. This is our second podcast, and off we go.
Yep. So Dayne, let's hear a little bit about where you grew up.
Well, I grew up in Colorado, Basalt, Colorado. Cute little mountain town. I actually grew up in a really awesome area, but growing up, you never really know what you have until you leave. I had dirt biking out my back door. I grew up skiing, so I definitely participated in skiing, but I was just so absorbed in team sports. I was volleyball, basketball, soccer, that I did not spend any time dirt biking there. But yep, I grew up in Basalt, Colorado. It's a town in between Aspen and Glenwood Springs.
So you said you grew up a little bit around dirt biking. Who was on the bikes at the time when you were growing up?
Not me. And so my younger brother, he's 4 years younger. He actually got into dirt biking. I actually don't know when. I really believe that he got into it either my freshman year of college when I was out of the house, or maybe my senior year. I don't exactly know, but this is actually a really funny story. I was so absorbed in myself and boys and team sports and college that I didn't know my brother even dirt biked, or let alone that the house that we grew up in, he actually built a motocross track around the house. Like, it was a motocross track moat around our house. Like, totally dug up the whole backyard, like took an excavator, bulldozer, I don't even know, but built these jumps and everything. I do believe it was after I left that he like fully went down the rabbit hole of building the motocross track moat around the house. But I actually had no idea until I came back, and I was like, why are there mounds around that house? And it's funny to think that was just literally right out my back door. But yeah, I was too concerned with other things to consider even doing anything around that.
Nice. Well, sounds like a good time. Going into team sports, what were you said you did 3 sports consecutive through high school. What was your favorite?
Ooh, that's tough. I played volleyball in college. I wanted to play volleyball in college, so I kind of definitely pushed that one. That one was probably my favorite. Looking back, though, it's hard. I really liked basketball, too. I did not like soccer. I was goalie. I'm not very good with my feet in a ball. But they put me, I was goalie, so they put me in the goal, and that was definitely my forte. So it was still fun. I liked it. I loved my soccer coach. It's hard. I would say probably say at the time it was volleyball, because that's what I was trying to pursue in college.
Yeah. So after high school, you played a little bit of volleyball. Where was that?
So my pride was a big thing. And
because your high school was pretty small, right? So it's
yes.
Not like you were Colorado in Denver somewhere at a D1.
No.
You were at a pretty small high school in Basalt.
Yeah, I believe there was like 98 in our graduating class. We'll just say 100. So I was a big fish in a small pond. But I walked on to UC Santa Barbara's Division I team. I think the coach was crazy. I don't know why she thought I could play. She actually didn't say I would play, but she actually allowed me on the team. I went from playing freshman to senior year team sports on varsity to shagging balls and not participating in any games or even really practices. playing for UC Santa Barbara. And so that was definitely short-lived. I mean, going from small mountain town to, classes where you knew everyone and anyone to this huge school, like I did not know what the heck I was doing.
Right.
And then just playing at that level, like it's a whole new world. And then stepping into California, it was a big change for me. And I ended up playing, I don't even know. I think I made it through, like, I would say the first quarter of the season, and then I pulled the ripcord. We had 3 practices a day. They told me I had to take study hall, and you're only allowed to take the minimum number of credits, including study hall. And I was looking at this going, well, I'm not going to get to play for 2+ years, 3 years, 4 years, and then it's going to take me forever to graduate. So I was like, looking back at it, I do wish I would have gone and played D2 or D3, and then maybe I could have played another sport too. But it was totally a good experience, and it led me to be where I am today. So
yeah, so at this point, you're Santa Barbara volleyball, thinking of getting out. Dirt bikes still aren't on the radar, but
no. What's a dirt bike?
Where'd you go next?
So this was in 2008 as well. And so I was paying out-of-state tuition, and 2008 economy crashed. My parents called me up and are like, we're not paying this anymore. Pick a school in-state, because there's still a lot of value in college, or going to college, but they were not going to pay for a UC school out-of-state tuition. So I ended up transferring to Colorado State University in Fort Collins. And I ended up playing club volleyball there, which was awesome. And I was like right at my level. At the same time of starting club volleyball, I think that's when I got into CrossFit as well.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because that's eventually what led you to move out to Wyoming.
Correct.
So you're playing volleyball, you're into, right, you get some training with the team.
I get to play not shag balls.
Right. And I know from knowing you that you had tried to outsource your fitness essentially to work on your vertical jump and stuff like that earlier in your life, and not seen any success with that. Mm-hmm. And then you get to college and you start CrossFit, and all of a sudden you kind of see some results you hadn't seen in the past. And so you were kind of bought in, right?
Yeah, for sure. I had personal trainers and everything, to try and get my vertical higher. And one of the things that was missing from my training was weights. Like I didn't really use weights, or at least do explosive movements with weights, like something like the power clean and the snatch. I was never taught those things, which actually have a huge translation to being powerful and explosive. So when I started CrossFit, I wasn't really training for volleyball at the time, just because that ship had sailed, and I was definitely becoming burnt out. But after starting CrossFit, I remember testing my vertical after, and it was significantly enough of a significance more that I was like, no way. All right, sign me up. Like this, I'm sold. But I was actually not training for volleyball at that time. This was just like the vertical piece of it was just an after effect. It was more of like, should have been doing that. Right. How I got into it actually was my techniques of weight training class teacher at CSU talked all about it. We would go into a strength and conditioning gym for our class because, back it up for a second. My degree is in health and exercise science. So that's what I was studying at Colorado State University. And I was in that class, techniques of weight training, and we'd walk into this gym and there'd be a bunch of machines. And I'll never forget, my instructor he was like, you see all these machines? Now look down. Look at you. That's the machine. And I remember being like, no way. Yes.
then.
I love it. And so
Disclaimer, some machines are good.
yeah, totally. But for that, at that point in my life, I was like, that was so impactful. And I was like, whatever he has to say, like, I'm bowing to Jesus. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. So my teacher talked a lot about it and just said how awesome it is, and how, free weights and using your body rather than machines, and just developing your energy systems. I mean, he didn't really honestly talk about that. I just know that now. but developing your training to reflect that kind of CrossFit style of training. And then that summer I went home for your summer break, and there was one CrossFit gym in the entire valley, and I was like peering in through the windows, and my friends and there was 2 friends, I believe, that I started with. We called them up and did, I think it was like a 2-week fundamentals thing. It was really like learning all the movements and everything. And I remember in my first class, so you do the fundamentals class and then you like go and immerse yourself in like the actual class that they were holding. I remember very vividly, mind you, I was a big fish, small town. So I was like, an athlete in my little town, my little pocket. And so I'm, in this class, and there was a bunch of my friends from high school, their parents, their moms in the same class as me. And I'm failing at push-ups, that I'm doing push-ups on the wall, and I'm looking behind me, and my friends' parents, moms, are doing legit push-ups on the ground. And I'm like, sold, sign me up, because clearly what I have been doing was not working, because I need to be doing push-ups like that. And it is ridiculous that so-and-so's mom is kicking my butt. I mean, slightly competitive, but I was immediately sold, and that was kind of the initiation of my journey as far as CrossFit goes and coaching.
Right. So then fast forward a little bit, that's what ended up bringing you out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming originally.
Yeah, so the last semester of my degree was a 500-hour internship. And so basically they just sent us off and still had us pay tuition.
Right.
But I reached out to Mountain Athlete in Jackson, Wyoming, and ended up getting accepted there for an internship. I felt pretty cool because I was the only person in my class that had a paid internship. I was actually, at that point in my life, I was considering diving down the fire, wildland fire and fire department kind of avenue. And so I had actually 2 options. I was had the option of implementing a health and wellness program at the Jackson Hole Fire Department. That could have been an internship that would have been unpaid. And then I had my Mountain Athlete opportunity, and that was paid. So of course I took that one. I had a friend living in Jackson, and so that was kind of the driving force behind there. She's like a really good friend from home, and she had moved up here and said it was awesome. So I was like, well, why not? So yeah, Mountain Athlete. Then I moved to Jackson. That was in 2012 that I started my internship. And yeah.
So from moving to Jackson, interning at Mountain Athlete, and then that's also where we met.
Yep.
Started seeing each other, and shortly after that, you were talked into buying a dirt bike.
By who?
I suggested it. And so tell us a little bit about that. I think your dad came down like either that weekend or the following weekend. Well,
pump the brakes. I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to be badass. I spent that. So I had never really spent a whole lot of time on 2 wheels. I had spent a lot of time on courts with balls. And I had spent that summer downhill mountain biking.
Yes, that's right.
And I did one race. It was Blast the Mast in my hometown, Snowmass, Colorado's. They had a race there, a downhill race, and I think I signed up for the novice, and there was 3 of us. I think there was 3 or whatever, 2 or 3 other girls, including myself, and I ended up winning that, which was like total highlight of my life. Mind you, it was like the novice class, the super novice one, but it was like, you know, okay, you know, I've got a new sport, and I'm trying to be cool and trying to be tough, and so I did that summer. It was steep learning curve for that, you know, downhill mountain biking, having never really done a 2-wheel sport, or a sport that requires you to pick lines or look ahead, or stay loose.
Breathe.
Or breathe. Wow. I mean, breathe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was definitely an interesting thing. And then so when Josh recommended that I get a dirt bike, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, I'm totally a tough girl and can do this. And so, yeah, he recommended that I get one. I think I know a lot of girls that get into it because their boyfriend or husband does it themselves, and it is a good activity for couples to do together.
Mostly.
I think there's going to be a separate podcast on that. You know, riding with your girlfriend or spouse. Anyways, so yeah, my dad came down. Josh feels very lucky that he was not part of this. But yeah, so we drive to the nearest dealership, which is about 90 minutes away, in a place called Idaho Falls, and I go buy a dirt bike. I'm 5'11", so I'm fairly tall. So my brother rides dirt bikes, hence the motocross moat around the house. He also raced downhill mountain bikes. That was kind of another precursor to me getting into that. Is like, okay, something's got to run in the family, right? So talking to Josh and my brother, they both suggested I get a 250 because I'm tall enough. And
in hindsight, we might have had a better bit able to pick a better bike.
So it's a big bike. I picked out, it was a 2006 250 XCF. No.
It was the 250X, the Honda four-stroke.
Yeah, it was a Honda. I was jumping ahead there. And went to Idaho Falls, picked one out, said which one's a 250, whatever that means. And it needs to be a 4-stroke. That's what I've been told. And picked one out, said that one looks cute, and the guy was like, you want to take it for a test ride? And I was like, sure. How does it go? How do you make it? How do you use it? Because I had been downhill mountain biking, so okay, levers on my hands, okay, front and rear brake, and he goes, well, left hand is a clutch. And I go, well, how does that work? So this poor salesman had no idea that he was going to be instructing dirt biking for that specific day. So he had to teach me how to start it, to stop it, to use the clutch, had to tell me that the rear brake is actually on my foot, shift lever is on this foot, and the front brake is on your right hand. So I'm pretty sure I started it up, like literally took it like 20 yards down, was able to turn around 20 yards back, and I was like, I don't need to do anything more because I'm going to make a fool of myself or something bad is going to happen. So we just said, load it up and let's go. So we loaded it up in my dad's truck. It was very nice of him to endure the embarrassment. And that was it. That was my first time riding a dirt bike, was in that parking lot.
So from there, from your perspective, that was, let's see, what year was that? That was in
2013 is when I bought that.
Okay.
The Honda.
And then we rode a little bit each year, but not anything crazy, but kind of from your perspective and your journey through that, what did those first couple rides feel like?
First couple of rides, I don't even know our first ride. I remember riding up Shadow Mountain, which is in Jackson.
Yeah.
It's not a trail, it's a road.
Yeah, there's a road and a little bit of two-track.
Yeah, and so I remember riding that. You know, that first year we didn't ride a whole lot. We rode that time and maybe one other time, and because that was the year we started the gym.
Yep.
So a couple rides, I had all hand-me-down gear for my brother. So I just kind of pieced that together. I'm pretty sure I was probably wearing his boots. That probably didn't fit. His helmet with the visor hanging off. Not recommended. I think if you're going to, you know, the gear is there to save your life. So make sure it can do that.
Spend a little money and get good protection that fits.
Yeah. I mean, of course you're trying it out to see if you like it. But anyways, the first couple experiences, you know, it's funny. It's like, why do you ride? Why that question? It's like, I have no idea. I have no idea why I do. Because the first rides, I mean, they're fun, but I was like, it was just miserable. There was like, but I think that's what made me keep coming back. It was like, I will always say it is the hardest thing I've ever done. Hands down. Over anything I've ever done. I've been in the deepest workout. I would say that's fairly similar to riding a dirt bike and then you also have the emotions behind it, and you have this machine that weighs 250 plus pounds, and you know, you're maneuvering it around, picking it up. That's the thing is, you know, as a beginner, you're not only unfamiliar with the sport and it's hard and you're exhausting yourself just trying to ride it because you're so tight and tense and nervous, but then you drop it a bunch, so you have to pick it up a lot, and that thing is not heavy or not light. It's super heavy, not easy to maneuver. So yeah, I mean, the first, I don't know, that was a lot. I mean, it's definitely, it's always there is that the challenge, but I mean, there's definitely moments now where I feel like I'm having flow states, or like I've got a smile ear to ear, but the first couple years, you should maybe tell a story about that. Do you have any stories about riding with me for the first year?
I've blocked a lot of that out.
Why?
No, I think Dayne had a really steep learning curve. It was a blind spot of mine, I think, in the beginning with how she started. I think most girls, and I'm not trying to be harsh on that, even dudes, the way that she started and persevered, a lot of people would have quit because it was steep. We didn't do any beginner hills, and where we live here in Idaho, everything's pretty legit. Obviously there's a spectrum, but even the trails getting into where we ride are not super easy.
It's not flat, basic, learn to turn, learn to use a throttle, learn to use a clutch, brake, whatever.
Yeah. So she spent a lot of time getting worked, hammered. I would say. Yeah. Persevered, and then eventually it seemed that there were glimpses of fun on the rides. And I think that's what kept bringing her back. That, and from what you said previously, we were still kind of new. So there was an element of
impressing you.
Or just not wanting to say this is too much. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. I would go on these rides and I would, I'm trying to impress him. So it's like, well, be tough, be cool, be cool. And it probably paid out in my favor, honestly. Like, if we were to start now, I'd be like, F you. I'm going to cry and F you. Yeah. But back then I was like, don't cry, no way. Like, smile. So, I mean, I feel like we just probably lucked out on that. You know, I when you were talking there, I had a memory of talking to you, and every time I remember saying to you, why is it every time I go and ride, like I am terrified? Remember that? Like we were out going out for a ride, and I was like, I don't understand why I do this, because every time I go, I'm terrified. I'm so scared. But yeah, I mean, it is just like you fall down, you got to get back up type thing. And yeah, like he was saying, there's not really, like I didn't spend much time learning. I spent a lot of time figuring it out. And I think you were actually very helpful for that, because you were learning yourself too. Granted, you were miles ahead of me, but
still learning.
You were, and you're a good coach. That's the other thing, is you're able to give good tactics and good feedback. And then above all is you didn't do it for me.
I don't babysit. I'm not a good babysitter.
Which sometimes babysitting has its place. Ugh. But Josh did not babysit me at all. Probably to a fault, even.
I would help if it was really needed, mm-hmm. and I would definitely help if it was, I mean, even if there were spots that I was like, this might be above
right
where you're at, then I'd help you get through it or whatever safely and not put you in that situation. But if it was just, off the side of the trail, it's like, okay.
Pick it up. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's been a huge, huge help for me. I think with that, it comes across as like you're confident enough in me that I can do it.
Right.
And so I remember having these little goals. I remember having a goal. I want to be able to do everything by myself. I don't care how fast I am. I just don't want help. So that was my goal. I want to be able to ride all these rides that we were doing in Idaho and do it all by myself. And I got there and I was doing them. I didn't need help. And then all of a sudden, it's funny, you see the progression. Like I don't really care how fast I go. And now all of a sudden I'm like, now I need to be faster. How can I be faster? So it went from, I don't want help to now I want to get faster. Now I want to get better. So it's really neat to see that progression happen in my head and on the trail too.
Right. And then you're seeking out the trails that you've heard other people talk about. And you're like, whoa, we should go ride that trail.
Yeah. Can I do that?
Can I do that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So real quick on that was your first bike
mm-hmm.
to that CRF 250X.
Oh yeah. You want to go to the bike story?
And then we had a little engine problem with that one, which was entirely my fault. I was
miscommunication.
Still learning the mechanicking side of this, and apparently there's an oil bolt and a clutch oil bolt on that bike, and I can't remember why, but I ended up pulling one of the bolts, thinking I was draining the clutch oil, but I drained the engine oil
because I had punctured.
Oh, that's right, your case. Yeah, and some of the metal had got into the bottom, and so. Pulled that off, didn't find any metal, and I was like, well, we should take it to somebody so they can pull the cover off, fish the metal out, and then redo the, make sure everything's good to go in there. And so took it to the local guy, got it back, and I was assuming, and again, he did everything right, because he drained the clutch oil, filled it back up, but I had drained the engine oil, and I didn't know that. So we go on a ride.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. You drained the engine oil.
Yeah. So we're riding, and like, I don't remember how that ride started off, but we
did like probably 5 rides. And then
we went up Mahogany, and you tipped your bike over, and you're like, I just started this leaf on fire.
Yeah.
I was like,
this bike is so hot. And then I kept telling you, it sounds funny.
Right.
And you would be like, here he is again, like, you're fine. I was like, I think something's weird, and it's hot. In fact, I just lit a leaf on fire. It started smoking when I tipped the bike over. I feel like that ain't right.
Yep. And I kept saying no. In my head, I'm like, You don't know what you're talking about. The bike's fine. Obviously, it's not the bike's fault. Anyways, start a leaf on fire. I was like, seems a little hot. And then it wasn't that long afterwards, you were like, it's making all these noises and it's like grinding or something. And I was like, you're like, just ride it. And I was like, all right. So I jumped on it. I went literally like, I don't know, 40 yards down the road and the whole thing just seized up.
Luckily where it seized, it was in a decent spot to get it out.
Yeah, so that wasn't that hard. But that was, I was like, oh, maybe I should pay a little bit more attention to
what happened.
What happened. So, second bike. At this point, you're like, cool, I'm into riding. I want to continue.
Yep. I was actually kind of bummed that my bike exploded. So I sold that. I think I got like $1,200 for this bike that didn't run. And not to mention, it was like radiators bent, like it had been through the ringer.
Yeah, as a parts bike, it wasn't that great even.
Yeah, basically it was spent more time probably on its side than upright. But I got a new bike and I got a KTM. I went orange and I think I had my brother pick this one up from Colorado, another used bike. And this was a 250 XCFW, so still the 250. And I think they had it with a Recluse, or I put a Recluse in it. The 250 had the Recluse.
I think you put the Recluse in that bike. I don't think it came with one.
One or the other.
Yeah.
But I
Nope, you did. You put it in.
Okay.
Shortly after you got that bike, we put a Recluse in it.
Yeah. So the Honda only lasted, I think, maybe, I don't even know. We probably put 10 at most rides on it. It was not very many. And and the KTM comes along and I put a Recluse in it because, mind you, I don't know how to use a clutch or really a throttle even. So there's a lot of things going on, and as a beginner, it was so hard for me. I just needed to learn to ride the bike. And so the Recluse, the auto clutch, was super helpful for me at that point in time because it gave me an opportunity to learn how to ride, like stay on the bike and not stall over everything. Like, because I have no idea what the heck I'm doing with clutch, throttle, blah, 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 like shift that. I mean, it was like rub your belly, pat your head, like with your every finger and every toe. And it was just too much for me. And so the Recluse allowed me to focus on riding and getting through and help me build confidence going over like obstacles, going through things and being like, oh, okay, if I just keep momentum, then I can just use momentum to get through things. And so that bike had the Recluse and I was like it was a little bit of a crutch for me. I would definitely say, but that was fine because it allowed me to it was a part of my progression as a rider.
Yeah, it took away one of the technical aspects. You were able to really focus more on, like you said, being on the trail, picking your lines, not worried about stalling, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so that poor bike, I think I probably rode it more than 10 times, maybe for 2 years or so.
Yeah, we put a decent amount of hours on that.
Yeah. And then, mind you, our hours are only summer. So a decent amount would probably be like, at that point, maybe 60 hours. 50, yeah. So that, I think it was probably the second year I had that bike. We were down in Nevada riding near Mesquite. And luckily, where we were, again, it just happens out of luck, we're actually on the road. We were heading back because we had to head back early because we had to get back. This was Thanksgiving weekend. I think this was probably Sunday would be my guess. Saturday or Sunday, because we had to be back for classes here at the gym on Monday. And Sunday, we left the ride early and we get to the road and we're like buzzing up, and then all of a sudden my bike stops. And I know this feeling because of the other one, and I was like, oh no. So I pulled the crank thing out, tried to crank it over. I was like,
the Kickstarter.
The crank thing. See? And it's stuck, and I was like, uh-oh. And luckily we were on the freaking road because you came and had to get the trailer and load the thing. Thing was toast. Seized her up.
Yeah, so that bike, after that happened, because when you bought it from KTM Aspen, no knock on KTM Aspen, but there's no way that bike had the amount of hours that was claimed by the private seller who was selling it through there.
Who knows? But
yeah,
I mean, a bike's a bike. I could have had a lemon too, so who knows? And now we all know that. I mean, you can, I've had to replace wheels on previous bikes, and it's like, oh, it's not counting hours. Maybe there was something to do with that. I don't know.
Anyways, okay. So after that 4-stroke blows up, next bike.
Yep. So that blew up. That was Thanksgiving, and so I was heartbroken. And then I decided I'm going to go new, because you had just bought a new bike in 2015, and when you bought the new bike, it was kind of like solidified that, hey, we're doing this. Like, this is kind of, or we're enjoying it. We want to get better. And I bought a 2017 of that. It was 2017, that spring. Bought a new bike. And this one, I went 2-stroke, which I was, I was always on the 4-stroke because everyone said it was like the throttle like was smoother and was more quote unquote user friendly. So I was really nervous to get the 2-stroke, but I got the 2-stroke and I had the Recluse in it. So when I bought it with the Recluse in it. I was like, you got to put that in because it was my crutch. And I remember I went and picked it up and then rode it on the way home in some sand and was like, this is the best thing ever. And in the throttle situation, I thought there was going to be a steeper learning curve than there was. And so I was so excited when I just got on and rode it like nothing. It felt really light underneath me. And so it was like, it was awesome. And that was like my first new bike. This is a legit thing now. This is what we're doing. We're riding dirt bikes. I'm a dirt bike rider. And that summer, I think I rode it that summer, or maybe it was the summer after, but I ended up getting rid of that Recluse.
Yep.
I had some issues with it at the Silver Mountain race in 2018, maybe? Yep.
Yeah, it must have been 18.
Yep. 2018, so that's when I got rid of the Recluse. Had some issues with it, and I think it was really, I won't say it cost me the race, but it was just, it hindered me because my bike was tweaking out, and who really knows? Probably rider error too. But I was, and one of my good friends, Kate Shades, like, take that thing off. Get rid of it. Her and her boyfriend Nate were like, get that thing off. And so I took it off, and my first ride without the Recluse. Oh, remember this? This was like our epic ride in the Grays.
Oh, the group of us.
Yes, where we almost spent the night.
Yeah. Okay.
So we were in the Grays River Range, and we had an epic adventure. It was almost an overnighter. We ended up getting out in the dark, but and had to. We went down some snow sections that we could not go up.
We made a collective call to drop into something we shouldn't have dropped into.
And so that was my first ride with the clutch, and so it was. That was super hard and technical, and I'm fight or flight a little bit, but I survived with that. So if I could survive with that time, I'm sold. And it's been, I would recommend the progression that I had. I think it really helped, but I think, getting rid of the Recluse and getting familiar with the clutch and using it properly has been a huge game changer for me.
Right. Cool. So we kind of mentioned the race in there. And And again, not saying racing's for everybody, but I know for Dayne and myself, we've found that every time we've done a race, it does a couple things. It opens your eyes to what other people are doing.
For sure.
It helps keep that spark of like, oh, I can, just continue to improve. And it kind of gives you some goals too, and it's a good marker for progression. But what kind of races have you done over the last couple of years, and which ones have you enjoyed the most?
Yeah, I think I started mostly with the Hare and Hounds because that was local. We did the Pumpkin Classic, like we mentioned in your podcast. And then after that, I remember going down to Salt Lake doing one. I remember doing one in Murphy, and they're just fast. And, it was so hard, and it was like the farthest I had really gone. I think one of them was, no, I don't think I ever raced 100 miles Hare and Hound. But regardless, it was, even in the C course or whatever I was racing, it was 60 miles, 70 miles. And the coolest thing about it, starting these races, was I was all by myself. Like, I got to be self-sufficient the whole time. I mean, remember, you don't babysit me, but it was really neat to be like nonstop the whole time. I'm out there on my own. Nobody's relying on me for anything. Nobody's waiting on me. I'm on my own.
But you also have that sense of safety feeling because you're not going to be...
There's sweepers.
Right, you're not going to be abandoned
Yep,
out there.
Exactly. Like, I'm going to be fine. Sweepers are going to come get me if I'm last. They'll kick me off the course. I believe that has happened. That actually did happen. Yeah, one of those races. It was 3 laps, and I came in after my second one. Oh, yes, I remember that. And I was like, can I go out for number 3? And they were like, you're done. You're cut off. The sweepers are already out there. I was like, oh, bummer. But, racing for me, I just like to rate. I like to do a competition for whatever I'm passionate about. I love-hate the nerves before it, and it just challenges you in a different way, and it's fun, and the best part about it is the community. So you really get involved in the community and get to meet all these awesome people that we've met, and just kind of challenge yourself in a different way than riding with your local friends on your local trails.
Right.
So yeah, and then just seeing new terrain, traveling, and yeah.
So how has fitness integrated into riding for you?
Well, I mean, I feel like similar to your story, it's the foundation from which I've been able to progress from. I had been working out when I started riding. So when I bought a bike, I was running the CrossFit program in Jackson, and then shortly after there, we started a gym in Driggs called Targi Athletics, which we still currently own. So I've been heavily immersed in fitness, and when I started riding, and even now, it gives me the confidence that I can. If you were to put me on like an actual like physical test, who knows? But I believe in myself to be able to endure long days, to endure overnighters, which we've had, to endure whatever comes my way. I know that I'm strong enough to pick up my bike. I'm strong enough to like handle it as needed. Granted, there has been maybe like 1 or 2 times where I was like, I legit have no options here. One of them, my bike was like falling down a hill, and I had it held on by a strap waiting for people to come help me because it was lodged on a tree. Another story within itself. But like most of the time, I'm able to get myself out of situations for the most part. And that's just having that foundation of strength. Fitness for me also has, I truly believe, helped prevent injury. I was a super thin human being growing up, and I may have looked fit, but I was never strong. I was always really skinny fat. At my arms, I always would joke that the top part of my arm was smaller than the bottom part of my arm. And so you can see how that always that looked, and I just wasn't, I wasn't strong. And so becoming strong and training and lifting weights and doing these workouts where you're pushing yourself and you're seeing the progression, not only like numbers and stuff, but also like what your physique looks like. And so I don't know where I was going with that, but it's given me the foundation to grow as a rider. Injury prevention, that's what I was talking about. So get sidetracked there. My skinny arms, because I was so thin, like I believe that if I hadn't had the strength that I had built by then, I would have probably endured some serious injuries. Like I think of my shoulders mostly because that's where I was so weak. Remember, I couldn't do a push-up. Crashing, is inevitable when you start. And so muscles armor. The stronger your muscles are, the stronger your joints are. It's given. And so I think that's been a huge thing for me, especially starting a sport that's unforgiving.
Yeah, crashing's inevitable in the beginning, in the middle, and the end, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
So moving forward, what are you looking forward to most this year?
Well, I'm really excited about this Enduro Method. We started this because obviously we own a gym and love riding dirt bikes, and I saw a niche to share our I wouldn't say expertise because we're still learning, but our experience and knowledge in the gym and relate it to dirt biking. As we've as you've learned listening to these podcasts, it's fitness and training has played a huge role in our progression on a dirt bike. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes and seeing if we can, expand our reach and help people enjoy their time on the bike better and enjoy the ride and enjoy the journey more, because it is, I believe, more fun and more enjoyable the fitter you are and the more confident you are and the stronger you are.
Agreed. So that leads right into this question. Where do you think your strengths lie?
My strengths? My strengths. Oh boy. Why'd you start with strengths and not weaknesses? Strong suit, I guess, would be attitude. So, just having a good attitude, whatever you're up against. In the dirt bike world, I feel like there's a lot of times where I've seen people give up or throw a fit. Don't get me wrong. I've definitely thrown a fit. I usually just try and do it in front of only Josh and not anyone else. But keep a good attitude and stay positive. I'd say that's a strength for me is, if I am upset, don't show it. And then even then, if you're pretending, then it bleeds into what you actually feel. So, keeping a good attitude no matter what comes up.
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Fake it till you make it.
And what about some weak points or things you would like to get better at or work on?
Oh, we could probably say bike maintenance. Remember when I said the lever thing?
Crank lever
thingy? Yeah. So bike maintenance is
we don't need a Kickstarter anymore in the world and
no,
e-start.
My bike doesn't even have one, but I do wish, I see a lot of girls really knowledgeable on that, and I totally envy that. I think that's awesome, and there are also a lot of weaknesses in my riding that I'd like to improve, but with that, I think the knowledge and of the bike itself and how to fix things and how to do like regular maintenance on your bike and that kind of thing is definitely a weakness of mine.
Well, I think too, just that it's not that you need to necessarily know how to like rebuild the top end or do any serious stuff, but having a decent base for if it goes wrong out in the woods or in the desert or wherever you're riding, being able to kind of, track that down if you need to is could be a
100%.
big help.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
You endured another podcast with Dayne and John. Congratulations.
So, I got a little background on where we come from, how it starts. Anything you want to say about Enduro Method? One thing I would kind of like to say.
Go ahead. On the Dayne interview.
On the Dayne interview. Well, it concerns both of us for Enduro Method is we've talked a lot about CrossFit because that's kind of where we met and where we started. But Enduro Method is not CrossFit.
Yep.
We take
It's a very good point.
Parts of it and use it because it's phenomenal. So some of the methodologies are fantastic, but this is not a plug and play program from CrossFit whatsoever.
No. Yeah. Like if you were to Google CrossFit, I mean, there's not going to be any of that stuff on there.
Yeah. So what we've working at, continually learning at, is putting together a program that is geared toward helping you get stronger to perform on the bike.
Specifically.
And that comes in a lot of shapes and sizes. And there is some crossover between general CrossFit practice and strength training and all that stuff. But we're trying to take the best we can of our knowledge base and put that into a system that really benefits the rider.
Yeah. Thanks for adding that.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, I think that's the end of this second episode.
Yeah, 2 down.
2 down, many more to go. All right. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll make sure to catch you next time.